Hey guys, it's Disco Spider, and Disney is not known for making good sequels. Almost all of them are bland, unforgettable, unnecessary, lazy, and just an easy way to make money. And although the one notable Disney sequel that's known for being good, Rescuers Down Under, was made by the same studio who made all those other good classic Disney movies, like the first Rescuers. But, however, the other Disney sequels are made by Disney Toon Studios, who also brought you the DuckTales movie, and a Goofy movie, and the Planes movies. However, there are a few good Disney sequels that are buried with all the other terrible Disney sequels, and one of them is Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. By the way, yes, this is a VHS tape. I grew up on these. Come on, guys. I'm not that young. The story of the movie is identical to Romeo and Juliet, but it does fit since the first one, Lion King 1, was their take on Hamlet, so it works. And although the story has been done to death, they do explain quite a bit to make the story work. They do explain why both prides hate each other, and why the pride that Simba's not in, the new one that we found out about in this movie, wants to take over Pride Rock, and why Simba cannot trust Kovu. And the relationship between Kovu and Kiara, Simba's daughter, is actually not that rushed, and they do take a little bit of the movie to develop their relationship-ish. And although the story can be predictable at times, I'll give them credit that they totally shocked me when I first saw this movie, where they randomly killed one of the comic reliefs. No, not Timon and Pumbaa. But they killed one of them off, and for no reason really. Although I guess there is a reason, but still, that's pretty metal. And although it's not the best plot, they do make it in a way where it stands out more than the other Romeo and Juliet ripoffs, like Nomeo and Juliet. Blah. And then we have the characters, and besides two of them, they're just either bland and forgettable, or serve nothing to the plot. First off, we have Kiara, Simba's daughter, who is your typical teenager who wants to, prove herself and not ask for help and do things on her own. And then we have Kovu, who is your typical guy who is supposed to be a bad person, but he just wants to be a good guy and doesn't want to do all these bad things like he's supposed to do. Both of these characters are very bland, especially Kiara. Kovu could have been executed pretty well, but, he's just a bland character. And although the relationship that they developed isn't so bad, these characters are still bland and forgettable, and I just don't care about any of them, or both of them. Whatever. And then we have Kovu's siblings, Vitani and Nuka, who are barely in this movie, and I guess when they are in, like, a couple of scenes, they contribute, but for the most part, they're just there for being there. Except for, Nuka, who is kind of the comedy relief, and, at times he can be likable, but then in the middle of the movie, he just dies. He's gone. He dies. Which I guess it sets up, that Kovu now, his family, his pride, hates him now, and also Simba and his pride also hates Kovu now too. But still, I think that's pretty metal that they killed off one of the comedy reliefs, although he is a villain, but still. And as for the other characters who were in the first movie, Timon, Pumbaa, Nala, Rafiki, and Zazu, they're barely in this movie, except for Timon and Pumbaa, who don't serve anything to the plot whatsoever, just making their scenes very pointless. So we have two characters that are the most interesting out of the bunch. First we have Simba, who he does kind of go through some development where he is kind of like the father who doesn't want to let her daughter go and, be herself, since, he thinks of her as his little girl. Although it's kind of like that, except, it's more about how she's with Kovu, kind of her boyfriend, who was supposed to be the predecessor to Scar, the guy who killed his father. So, I understand why he doesn't want her hanging out with Kovu, because you can't trust him, even if, he's not Scar. He's his predecessor, so he could be evil. And he does kind of get development. I mean, Simba. He does get development, but he's barely in this movie. The whole movie is about Kiara, the most bland and boring character in this movie. So Simba just becomes just a side character. And then we have Zira, who we don't get to know much about her like backstory or anything. But the performance that the actor or the actress gave her, and all she feels very villainous, and just makes her stand out more as a villain. And she's a good villain. I like her. The actress did a great job making her menacing and actually memorable. And as for the animation, it's not bad. It's a big step up from the other Disney sequels like the Aladdin ones, but definitely not as good as the original Lion King movie. However, there's one thing I have to say, that Kiara looks exactly like all the other lioness in the movies, especially Nala, Simba's wife. They all look the exact same. I mean, Simba and Mufasa look different. Scar and Kovu look different. Why couldn't they make Kiara stylistic and make her stand out more? When I see Kiara, I do see Kiara. I don't be like, oh, it's a random lioness or it's Nala. But still, it would have been a lot better if she looked different than all the other bland lionesses out there. And then lastly, the songs. I'm not the biggest fan of the Lion King songs. I mean, I love them as a kid, of course, as a kid you love Hakuna Matata and stuff. But growing up nowadays, it's alright. But the Lion King 2 soundtrack, all it is just bland music. Except for one, which is Not One of Us, which is one of my favorite Disney songs. One of them. I think it's a great song. But all the other ones that I can't even remember because they're just so bland. And, they don't serve much to the plot. They just kind of stop the movie just for this one pop song that is not really good. And that is my review of the sequel to Lion King. Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. Yeah, Return of Pride Rock. Yeah. If you like any of the Disney sequels, then yeah, go ahead and watch this. It's probably one of the better ones. And if you like the original Lion King, then I guess go ahead and watch this, but you might not like it. Just if you do watch this movie, just don't have high expectations. Just think of it as, your direct-to-DVD sequel, which it is, or direct-to-VHS sequel. Just don't expect anything from this movie, since it is just a cheap way to make money for Disney. So, yeah, I'm Disco Spider, and peace out.